salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing while Councilman Sarah leads us in prayer.
Heavenly Father, we come together this evening in the service of our community. We ask that you help our minds to be open and focused on the good that we can do as members of this governing body. And let us always see the value in the views and opinions that are shared with us tonight. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing. I have a moment of silence, and so does Councilman Sarah. My moment of silence is for a very good friend of mine, and I think most of the people up here on council remembers from days we might want to forget. Our friend Dave Peters passed away of cancer last week, so I would like to have a moment of silence for my good friend Dave Peters. Thank you. Vince?
I would like to have a moment of silence for William Strobe. He is the father of Acting Sergeant Bill Strobe, who's a member of our police department. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy and Vince. This to advise the meeting notices covering this meeting have been sent and posted as required under the Open Public Meetings Act. The meeting was opened at 5 o'clock. Council went into executive session, and at this time I would ask our solicitor, Mr. Cerny, to comment on the topics that were discussed in executive session.
In executive session, the mayor and council discussed certain matters relating to personnel. Specifically, a discussion took place in regard to appointment of additional persons to the Recreation Committee. Additional information will be made available this evening when council considers appointing another member to that committee. Council discussed personnel matters in the Department of Public Works. The manager advised that Emil Hebion has retired. A discussion took place in regard to replacement personnel. The manager was authorized to engage in further efforts in terms of future appointments for that vacancy. Under contracts, council discussed a contract for the fire chief and an amendment of contract for the chief of police. Additional information in regard to this discussion will be available this evening when council considers resolution 2017-44. Council also discussed an agreement for dredging with the New Jersey Department of Transportation. Specifically, the DOT will engage in the dredging of St. George's Thoroughfare, and the appropriate permits will be issued in that regard. Council also discussed a contract with New Jersey Transit. This contract would be for the installation of bus shelters. 3 locations were discussed, one at Dolphin Cove, a second at Harbor Beach Boulevard at the location of the TD Bank, and another by the Brigantine City Hall. Council has authorized the manager to engage in the appropriate discussions and negotiations with New Jersey Transit to finalize the installation of those bus shelters in those locations. Council also had a discussion in regard to Block 846, Lot 1. This is actually property that is by the bridge that is in the city of Atlantic City. Council reviewed the fact that in 2010, the city of Brigantine entered into a series of agreements both with Atlantic City and with the entity that owns that property, that is Block 846 Associates LLC. This discussion resulted from an application that the owner has filed with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. That application is for an amendment of the Atlantic County Water Quality Management Plan, which would cause a reconfiguration of sanitary sewer services. That application for that plan will be the subject matter of a public hearing on April 19 of this year. Council has authorized the manager to further review the previous 2010 agreements and the current amendment that has been filed by the property owner to determine any impacts for the city of Brigantine Additional information will be made available as that investigation goes forward. Council also discussed the process currently in place in Brigantine for professional service contracts and the receiving of proposals for professional services. That discussion touched upon the current pay-to-play ordinance in Brigantine. Council has authorized the manager to review the Atlantic County ordinance, which is different from the Brigantine ordinance, and prepare a draft amendment to the current ordinance. Additional information will be made available in that matter when that amendment is available, which is anticipated sometime in the next 30 days. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Cerny, for that comprehensive report. At this time, we need a motion to approve the council meeting minutes and executive session minutes of 2/15/17. A motion and second, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any additions or deletions to the minutes? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Next, we move to the approval of payroll, requisition list, and operating expenses. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Reardon.
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Simpson,
Abstain to 17-144 and 17-179. Yes to everything else.
sorry, 17-144 and 17-149,
79.
179. Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, at this time, I will open the meeting for public comment on agenda items only. If you are going to comment, I ask that you please step forward, use the microphone, state your name and address for the record. This is for agenda items only at this point. Mr. Pucci.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
Evening, John.
The consent agenda for the Boy Scout troop, I did read that request, and I do understand that campfires aren't allowed on the beach, but I'm just thinking if there could be some kind of special consideration, because it is a Boy Scout group. I can't imagine them camping out overnight and not having a little campfire. You know, if guidelines were enforced, and initially it was my understanding that you could have campfires because on the fire department section of our website, under the forms, there is an application, a permit you could get for bonfire/campfire. So, you know, whatever the rules are, yes, but I would just think maybe the council would do some kind of special consideration, because it is Boy Scouts, and how can you camp out overnight on the beach without a campfire? So that's just
I'll ask Chief Platt if he...
that's just a request that I'm making.
The fire official is the one that is in charge of the bonfires, and we do not issue bonfire permits anymore. The form that you're referring to on the fire department's website, it was brought to my attention today that it was still up there, and I instructed the person that does that to pull that form down. So that was brought to my attention today. But it is the fire official that does that, and we don't do the bonfires on the beach, and we haven't issued permits for a while, and it's because if you make an exception for one group, there's going to be multiple groups that, well, you did it for them, and then I'm a firm believer, and I think it'd be great to have a little bonfire down there as well. You know, sleeping out on the beach, it'd be fun to do. The problem is once you start to do it for one group, it could take off, and other groups want it, and next thing you know, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you got to get somebody down there to keep an eye on it, and it could take off. You know, whether or not in the future we look into finding a way to make it work for us, I'm all for it, because I think that would be a fun thing for the kids to do. Absolutely. Unfortunately, the fire official is the authority figure on that, not the fire chief, because of the state codes.
So, Ed, can I ask you and the chief to meet with the fire official to see if,
Okay, sure.
There's a way to
We can
ma-
also reach out to the Boy Scouts that are requesting it. They didn't come back and, we let them know that would be a problem. And they didn't come back and say that's a deal breaker or, that's, the end of the day.
Right.
But we'll reach out, and if that's something they really want to pursue, I'll get together with the fire official and the fire chief, and we'll see what can work.
great.
I'm not representing the Boy Scouts tonight, Mayor. I just read the agenda.
Right.
And if in fact the council so felt that they could have a campfire, I would donate the wood, and I would also ensure that whatever situation is there, that would be cleaned up. I would also be involved in taking care of that also personally myself for the Scouts, if the council so desired to approve it.
Thank you, John.
If it wasn't an open fire, like people do the little fires in their backyards, they have the contained pits with the lids on them, would that make a difference? I mean, obviously, we might have the answer to that, but,
Technically, no.
Okay.
Again, even like, as Mr. Pucci was saying, the fire official would be the one that have
Okay.
to approve that.
yeah.
I mean, council by state can't even approve that. Like, council can't say, it's got to come from the fire official. But, if I work with Ed and we work with the fire official, Baldwin, we may be able to come to some compromise so they can have that. This, I think it would be good.
You can have barbecues on the beach, right?
Propane only.
Propane only,
You
yeah.
can't have the charcoal.
Yeah. Okay.
So unless they all hover around a propane barbecue, that might be.
Yeah.
Maybe we
You can still
maybe we
toast
can
marshmallows.
I know it's going to be all night. Number 17, the resolution for the cancel of real estate taxes, 100% permanently disabled. That is because the gentleman is a veteran, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Realizing that it might be state statute, I just wanted to continue to recognize that Brigantine has been designated a veteran-friendly community. That's why I wanted to bring it up. This is for a veteran. We're doing this. And lastly, the ice cream ordinance. I remember when this was amended the last time, and after that, there was some comment and talk about when the vendors go down to the cove and/or the jetty, the transporting of the ice cream or the big box or whatnot, instead of walking all the way down there, they would use a vehicle, a 4x4 permit, so they could actually take it down there on the beach using the vehicle, where it's not normally done any other place because you don't have to. I don't know if it's understood, or maybe some type of language should be put in this ordinance that, in fact, they're driving on the beach somewhat quasi-commercially to take the ice cream down there to sell it. But I would think that would be a good thing, that to go way down there at the jetty, they could take a vehicle and actually drive on the beach way down there to service those customers. I don't know if it's understood, or a statement needs to be made in the ordinance. It's just a suggestion.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Chief, I don't know if you're seeing any of that already, or?
Last year, Mayor, we did see them with their cart and their shoulder carries. What they were doing, we actually stopped and asked one of them. They were parking down by Pepper Cove Lane, or one of the other side streets, and heaving it over the walkway. One of the other gentlemen had a four-wheel drive permit. He would park right by former Councilman Palella's house and use that back road to get back and forth between the jetty and the cove. I wouldn't have an issue per se if we could keep some type of control on who was going to be going down there for what.
Right. But they're not literally selling out of the truck. They're
No.
still using the,
They have the carts
Right.
with the
The cart.
big blow-up wheels on them and the over-the-shoulder freezers.
And I can say too, like, I talk with them frequently throughout the island, and what I see is sometimes they do drive it down on a four-wheel drive, but it's not being sold out of the truck. But most of the time, they do that loop on the south end, where they walk all the way down the south end around the cove, take that little back road between the jetty and the cove, and walk back and forth. I have not seen anybody selling out of their vehicles, and it seems to be working out pretty well with what they're doing now.
great.
Mayor, just as a point of interest, all these gentlemen have to be veterans. The ones we're giving the mercantiles to, they can get a free permit.
That's
Yeah.
true.
If they wanted to take their vehicles down the beach and park them to sell, they'd just get a free permit and go down.
Great. Okay, any other public comment on the agenda? Yes, Mrs. Phillips.
Ann H. Phillips, 308 27th Street. 3 items. Number 1, the salary ordinance. There are 8 increases in the maximum amounts, and that term maximum is very flexible. It's a loosely used term, being subject to change frequently. The increases are for the positions of the Chief Financial Officer, the City Manager, the Clerk, the Public Works Supervisor, Water and Sewer Licensee Stipend, the Judge, and the Police and Fire Chiefs. The latter 2, that maximum amount goes all the way up to $150,000 from $120,000. There's no justification given for any of these reasons. Our population declines, but the salaries increase. The City Manager, the maximum goes to $140,000. The Chief Financial Officer to $115,000. I think some justification should be given when you vote on this ordinance. I realize this is an introduction, and there will be, I hope, some more discussion at the next meeting, but there should be some justification, some necessity for raising these salaries, and the public should be aware of that. Number 2, the housing law designation. This is interesting. All real property is being proposed to be included in a need for rehabilitation zone. I'm curious as to the consequences for this resolution and the need for it. And 3, the ratification of the chief's contracts. Again, there's no backup, no contracts on the internet, on the city website, and so we don't know what's in them. It's the same story. So I think as you approve this, which you probably will, it would be helpful to the tax-paying public to know what's in those contracts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Okay, any other public comment on agenda items? Okay, seeing I'm going to close the public portion. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer and our City Auditor and the City Manager for the introduction of the 2017 municipal budget. I know the auditor and the team have prepared a PowerPoint presentation that will take us through the proposed 2017 municipal budget. So I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight I asked Roxanne and Leon to be here to help present the introduction of our budget. Leon has a PowerPoint presentation for us tonight to take us through some of the highlights of the budget and where we stand financially with the city. So I'll turn it over to Leon and Roxanne.
Thank you. Tonight is the introduction of the budget, and it's the same budget that the manager presented, whatever day that was, a couple of weeks ago, and with one change, and we'll go over that one change that's in the budget. Introduction means that it's the start of the budget process, believe it or not. It's been a long time in the making, but this is the official start, and this is the manager's budget. It'll be turned over to council to vote on. Need at least 4 people to vote yes to introduce it, and then there'll be a public hearing on April 5th, at which time the public can make comments on it, ask questions about it. But tonight's just the introduction. It's going to be pretty much a repeat of what you heard before with a few more charts, but it is the same budget with one change. It still has a 2.1 cent tax decrease. You have 3 documents, one thick document, which is the state document that goes up to Trenton. This document's the same thing that's on the screen. And then there's a summary sheet that's a one-pager that highlights a lot of the stuff in the budget. So with that, I'll start with the slides. And again, this is the 2017 budget, which was presented by the manager. It's about 15, 16 slides that we'll go through. They'll go through them rather quickly. They're the same slides we've been using, just updating them to show you what's been happening. The important thing here is that for 2017, we have an increase of $13 million in new ratables, which was up from $3 million the year before, $2 million the year before that. After the reval was done, it stabilized the tax base, and now we're starting to see some growth in it. The next slide is the revenue that was lost due to tax appeals. As you can see, 2010, 11, 12, and 13 were big years of losses from tax appeals, and then the reval took place, and that has settled down dramatically. Local tax levy. This tax levy is $598,566.43 less than last year's, which was $353,000 less than the year before. If you look back up the chart, it's below the 2013 tax levy, $22,214,000. This levy is $22,019,000. So this is lower than it was now in 2013. This is the fund balance analysis. We gained a little bit more on fund balance. We're using the same fund balance as last year, $2,550,000. This is to keep stability. You don't want to use more than you're anticipating making back, and last year we were pretty close. We made a little bit more than we anticipated, which was a good thing. But it leads for financial stability by not using more fund balance than you think you're going to make back. So $2,550,000 was the appropriate amount that was picked for the fund balance. This slide, I've been a broken record for 43 years in talking to every governing body. As you can see, 63.7% of your budget is made up of employees and the employee-related costs: salary, Social Security, pension, unemployment, health insurance, and workers' comp. This is no different than any other year. It's the same story that, again, I'm a total broken record on this topic, but if you want to change your budget, this is where you change your budget. Really, nowhere else is there any significance that you can make up. So, again, 63.7% is the employee cost of the budget. And actually, school districts are even higher than this because there's very little in the school district besides the employees and their benefits. This is a breakdown showing you what's all the major categories. The employee cost, again, 63.7. Debt service and capital, 12.3. That's a little bit below average compared to most towns. Utilities, 2.6. Reserve fund collected taxes, 5%. This is also stabilized since you've had the reval, and that number was jumping around pretty good for a few years. The golf course deficit, $415,000. This is where the one change was. It was $405,000. The principal that was used in the manager's budget was off by $10,000. It had to be increased. That's what the change is. That's the only change from the manager's budget to this one. All the other departments, that means everything, from supplies and postage and all that stuff, is at 12.8%. And then there's a type 1 school debt service. Remember that the city of Brigantine is a type 1 school, which means that the 3 members of the governing body and 2 members of the school district control all of the budgets and financing of the school. This has to be included in your budget, but it's on the school tax rate itself, which I'll show you later. But 3 members of the governing body in about 3 weeks will vote on the school budget. That will determine what the school tax levy is. This is the debt service, which you've passed through ordinances in the past, and money that we've borrowed. And I'll go through the highlights of this. This is in really good shape. This is actually down from last year, and it's going to continue to fall unless there's another major school project, which I don't know what the school's thinking on that, but it's in great shape debt service-wise. And you'll see that this number is actually less than last year. These are deferred charges. These are things that were for the revaluation, which now is complete. That was done. Hurricane Sandy, which will be done in 2017, and then the compensated absences liability, which will be done in 2018. This is showing you where they stand. This is a chart that we've been using the last 3 years. All these we've been using the last 3 years. The water and sewer utility fund balance. In 2012, there was $1,324,000. Then it dropped all the way down to $398,000. We're now back to $1,428,000. Starting with the 15 budget, the 16 budget, and the 17 budget, there was no contribution to the current fund to offset taxes. It wasn't needed, so you haven't been using that the past 3 years. That's allowed the fund balance to grow back. And you'll also see that on the next slide, the actual appropriations in the far right-hand column, the bottom, are $737,000 less in the water and sewer appropriations than they were in 2014. This has come down every single year in the past 3 years. And this would even be lower, except for one allocation. I believe we did talk about it at the, or Ed and Roxanne talked about that. The last piece of allocation, there was never, the pension was never allocated to the water and sewer. And this year is the first time, which is why there's $109,178 increase in the statutory expenditures. It went from 92.5 to 220, 150. That's because the pension for the employees in the water and sewer are now being charged to the water and sewer. So this has been refining the past couple of years, and I think this is the last adjustment that you'll see. But even with that, it's still $737,000 less than it was in 2014. The golf course utility, that budget has decreased from $1,681,000 to $1,456,000 to $1,385,000, now down to $1,227,000. You now have no salaries and wages. It's all in agreement with the ACIA and the debt service 419. The good news on the debt service is 2018 is the last payment that you have on that, and then that will subside. So the expenses are matching the revenues. It's self-liquidating. You know, the economy's starting to move around. We'll see if golf course revenues come back up, but if they don't, the budget is geared accordingly. Reserve for tax appeals in 14 was an appropriation of $300,000. That was the first one. Then you dropped it to 100, then to 75, now down to 25. Haven't touched that since it was started. This appropriation will probably not be needed in 18. There has been very little appeal since the reval in 2014, so this number, if we'll leave it in reserve, obviously, and if it's needed, it will be used, but probably won't be added to this anymore unless we see another major downturn in the housing market and appeals start to happen again, but right now it's pretty stable. The reserve for accumulated absences, this is the history of that. There was an appropriation of $788 in 13, $300,000 in 14, down to $200,000 in 15. Then there was an actual appropriation of $500,000 last year, and then Roxanne transferred another $162,000 to it to match what was being used. That's the $661. So this year's budget calls for another $500,000 to be added to that. That should be adequate, more than adequate, to fund any retirements that are happening this year. Contracts have been altered that this number is going to slowly decrease as time goes on. There's limits on how much can be taken now. That's not a topic for tonight, but we should be seeing this slow down. The tax levies. The tax levies for the local, we know. The city tax in 14 was $22,000,009. In 16, it was $22,000,006. It's dropping down to $22,019,019, or the 2.1 cent decrease. The school back in 14 was $6,843,000. This is an estimate. All the red numbers on the 2017 column are estimates, but we do know the debt service number is $912,385, and I put a flat $16 million for the school tax levy, which we'll find out in a couple of weeks what that actual number is. The county, swings dramatically. You can look, see, in 2014 it was $12,866,000. In 16 it was $15,659,000. That's almost a $3 million change in the county tax levy. I estimate it for right now, $16 million for the county and library, $1,200,000. County health, $800,000. County open space, $100,000. We don't know what's going to happen as of right now with the county. There's two incredibly big variables that are out there. Is one, how much do they get from the pilot? And two, what are the assessed values that are going to be used and what part of the pie you're going to get? So not even worth speculating at this point. You read the paper, you'll see it's going to be 13 and a half, it's going to be 10, it's going to be 9. I mean, it's all over the place as to what the pilot portion is going to be. Once that's settled, we'll know that number. I doubt we'll know that by April 5th, but we'll see. But if all this came true, the tax levy would be $2,000 more than last year with all the factors. 57 million out of 29 and 57 million out of 31, or almost a 2-cent tax. I mean, almost a 1-cent tax decrease overall. Yours is a 2.1. That's all we can control. That's all you vote on. That's what's in your hands. That will be a solid number. That one we do know, and that's not going to change. What happens with the school, we'll know in a couple of weeks. What happens in the county, we'll know whenever. But we do know that yours is a 2.1-cent decrease. And it could be an overall decrease in total if the county goes the right way for us. Levy cap bank. There are two banks that you have to live with. If you look at this sheet that you have, you'll see a summary of the status of the caps. It's in the right-hand side middle box. The spending cap, we could spend another $1,966,000 if you wanted to. We could also raise another $2,733,000 in taxes and be legal. We're far, far, far below what the law allows. We're way below both caps. You can see in 2014, your tax levy was the maximum that you were allowed to levy. In 15, you were $672,000 less than the levy, $809,000. This year, we're $1,251,000 less. The 3 years are allowed to be banked. That's the $2,733,000 if you add the three together. So we have no issues whatsoever with any of the caps. You are far, far below both the levy cap and the spending cap. This is the old standard where's our money go chart. The school gets 29.7%, the city gets 38.6%, and the county gets 31.7%, based on those guesses that I had from before. I mean, these will change somewhat, but this is a pretty good indication of what happens. The next chart is just one quick reminder that as part of all of this, your capital planning is very important. And you can see that we have a nice, what some people call a nice waterfall, which means that as issues fall off, new issues can come on. You're going to be doing things. We want to do things without changing how much is in the budget for the amount of payments. This is geared, it's been done this way for a long, long time, and it's the same position that it's been. We can, when Ed gets done with this capital plan, those numbers can quite easily fit into this chart without altering how much the taxpayers pay. And then the last one is, we've had this now for the last 3 years, and this is kind of like the target of what these two would like to do this year. The police contract that expired at the end of 16, that's in process, and hope to have a new contract very soon. Fire will expire at the end of 17. And same thing, try and get on that and have the contract early in 18. As you remember, the last go-around, these contracts went 2 and 3 years without being settled. These are addressed and put away. The next two deal with the capital that is ongoing, and this is going to be the year that these things come into play and the plan gets put into place so that we can start filling in that waterfall with the projects that you have on the board. There will be projects. Roxanne has one that she wants to implement, a tax collector interface with the general ledger. Right now, the offices act independent, and then entries are posted manually from one to the other. She wants to make it all one seamless transaction. Last year, the requisition system went in. The year before, the general ledger was all bound, so all this is all improving and clean up the whole system. Public hearing is going to be on April 5th. At that time, we will know the school number. I don't think we'll know the county number, but we might. And that's when you guys now have the budget, it's yours. Come in and see Ed, Roxanne, and find out what's in it. And if you want any clarification what's in it, you already had his presentation before. So that's a quick overview. You can see from this sheet, there are quite a few good highlights on here. Spending's down in almost every category. Your tax levy's down, your ratables are up, your fund balance is up, and your levy caps are gigantic room that you could spend more and levy more if you wanted to. So I guess, any questions or comments from the governing body?
We've had some time with the budget, the manager's budget, but obviously there's more time needed to go through this. What we've typically done is spend some time with Ed and Roxanne and Leon in groups going through the budget. So we can set that process up. We wouldn't have a quorum in any one group, but if Leon is willing to accommodate that, it's very useful, not only for understanding this budget, but understanding municipal budgeting in general. So we can facilitate that through Ed's office. You know, that's typically what we have done in the past, and then obviously come back to the next meeting, which would be the public hearing, or in the interim, if council needs, wants to discuss it at our next meeting in March, but public hearing would be, if there are any changes, would have to be made at that time.
Yes, there are the rules that you can talk about all you want between now and April 5th, but April 5th is when you would propose any changes that you want to make. And we're conceivably going to have one change. We almost had the number today, but we don't have it. There's a spot in the budget. I was showing you that the school tax is down $53,837.50. We also have a major component in there. One is the aid that we get from debt service. Right now, we've just left the same number in, $193,715. That number, after the governor's address, becomes official. I tried all day long to get that if I could to try and get this in here. It's not going to change much because your debt service is practically the same. So it's, and he didn't mention change in the aid at all downward. So I don't think it's going to be any different than this.
I think there's actually an increase in debt service.
Yeah, but it might not be an increase in debt service. I don't know. We'll see. The other big thing is that we are rapidly paying down that school debt. We're using $1.4 million right there on your sheet 10 of the budget that has been received from the state for the last project that's going on right now. So even though it looks like when we get to the debt service for the school that we're up a lot from $1,159,000 to $2,506,000, it's because we're paying down the bond anticipation note with all that $1.4 million that we got. So we're lessening that debt way faster than was anticipated. So when you look at that and you see, whoa, he said school debt service is down, it's up this god-awful amount. It's not, because it's offset by revenue. Great. Any comments or questions on the PowerPoint that we can address tonight, if there are any?
I'll comment again. I said it 2 weeks ago, but I think it's tremendous, great news for the Brigantine taxpayers and residents that we're reducing spending, cutting taxes, local taxes, and keeping our excellent quality services here on the island. And just want to say, great job. Thanks again.
You know, the other thing that we've talked about a little bit, but also, I mean, obviously, we're going, this proposed budget, introduced budget, if it's voted on tonight by council, will lower the municipal tax rate 2.2 cents. 2.1 cent. But with that said, we also see some very encouraging trends. And I think they're as important to look at, over time, which includes an increase in the ratables of about 13 million. Which is a very positive direction as you look. That's not happening in all of the municipalities. as well as what you talked about with debt service and keeping that stable, even though the number of projects that we have coming forward are probably more significant than we've had in a group in a long period of time. So I think they're very encouraging trends. We're seeing those projects actually under construction right now, but also that is going to remain stable. I think we're probably looking at about $12 million in projects that are in the pipeline. And with that in the pipeline, we're also seeing debt service remain constant.
And Mayor, the PowerPoint presentation, as well as this, the introduced budget will be put on the website tomorrow for everyone to see. Any mayor and council, any questions that you have that come to you after tonight, feel free to reach out to myself or Roxanne. We will schedule meetings at your pleasure. We'll work with Leon, hopefully, and his schedule, and hopefully be able to answer any questions that you have. If anybody in the public has questions, they can reach out to my office, to the manager's office, and we'll do the best we can to answer everybody's questions.
The other trend I wanted to mention, I forgot, is the change in the local tax levy over the last, it's been going down significantly. It started in 15, but, we're at $598,000 this year, which is, you're seeing that change in the tax levy is also a very positive trend.
Awesome.
I'd say too, one of the things I'm proudest of is as we, cut costs, we're trying to save money for the taxpayers, we're still investing in the city, investing in our employees, and moving the city forward. I think a lot of times people just kind of focus on saving money and neglect some of those important issues. And it's not always about where you are, but where you're headed to. And what I see from our employees, our department heads, our professionals, we're focused on being smart with our money, but we're also not afraid to spend smart money to make the city better. And you see that kind of reflected in the growth of the rateable base. And I hear from people now, they talk about they are excited to invest in Brigantine. They're excited to come here because they see the stability of the government and they see the professionalism that goes on from all of our employees and everybody from our council and everybody involved. And that's really what I'm proud of. So I want to thank everybody who's here.
Okay, so if any other comments, we'll set up those meetings for small groups. Ed will take care of that through his office.
Sure. You reach out to me.
Leon, do you want me to take a recess so you can get your equipment?
No, go ahead, I'll take care of it.
You all right?
Thank you for your presentation.
Why don't we take 5 minutes so you can get all your stuff out? Yeah.
That's all you
Let's take a
want.
5.
Let's get it done. Let's go.
We don't want to be, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we'll continue on
The
then.
resolution to introduce us.
Yes, we have to do that. All right, Lynn, we need resolution 2017-42 is the introduction of the municipal budget. I think you have that resolution.
Be it resolved that the following statements of revenues and appropriations shall constitute the municipal budget for the year 2017. Be it further resolved that said budget be published in the Press of Atlantic City in the issue of March 17, 2017. The governing body of the city of Brigantine does hereby approve the following as the budget for 2017. Notice is hereby given the budget and tax resolution will be approved, by the city council of the city of Brigantine. A hearing of the budget and tax resolution will be held at City Hall Municipal Building on April 5th, 2017 at 6 o'clock, at which time and place objections to said budget and tax resolution for the year 2017 may be presented by taxpayers or other interested persons.
Okay, can we have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
Lucre,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carried.
Once again, thank you, Leon, for your presentation, very informative. It's always good to receive good news.
Sure.
Okay, ordinance number 5 of 2017 is the public hearing and adoption of the capital ordinance providing for the purchase of new upgraded radios and related equipment for the police and fire departments. This is ordinance number 5, and the appropriating the amount of $125,000. Can I have a motion and second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, at this time, I will open the meeting for the public hearing on ordinance number 5. If you wish to speak on ordinance number 5, please step forward, use the microphone, and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no public participation at this time, Chief, do you want, for the purposes of the public, both here and watching at home, do you want to describe the equipment that you are going to purchase and for both police and fire departments?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. The short version of the long story is we're going to be upgrading several pieces of equipment in the fire department and most of the police department's portable radios and car radios. The system that we're currently using is no longer supported by the manufacturer as it's nearing 20 years old. The county and the federal government have moved to a standard type system where anybody can basically talk to anybody at the push of a button. And when we're all done with this project in the next 60 to 90 days, that's where we'll be at. And the radios should be future-proofed for at least another 10, 15 years.
Well, you certainly got your money's worth out of the old system.
Yes, sir, we did.
That's great. Okay, any questions by council members?
I was just going to say that in addition to those things you brought up, Chief, like about, communicating between municipalities, it's the fact that you can have all that new equipment. I mean, that is your lifeline, right? I mean, you guys get out there, and that's the one thing really that's the most practical, I would say, probably of all. You're chasing someone down, and maybe there's 2 guys or whatever. I mean, that's your lifeline back to the station. So the fact that you guys are going to have all good stuff, or same with the fire department, whatever they might need it, it's excellent.
Radios and police cars are the 2 most important things.
All right, once you get out of your car, your radio's not there, you need your portable. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, seeing no other comments, could we have roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, ordinance number 6 of 2017 is an introduction authorizing employee direct deposit.
Good night. Thank you.
Leon. Have a motion, second, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, I think as we discussed at the last meeting, most of your employees are on direct deposit. This would require everyone to be on direct deposit.
That is correct. With the minor delay with our seasonal employees, we're doing it as optional this year, and we would phase in a requirement for everybody to do it the following year.
Great. Okay, any discussion by council members?
Yeah, with the seasonal employees, and I think about that with the beach patrol, how would that affect like minors? Some of the minors might not have bank accounts yet.
So we had set up,
I know some that give the checks to their parents.
that's why we're doing it as a phase-in, but
Okay.
there are other alternatives. If you don't have a bank account, there's another method as well.
Okay.
Plus, it really does encourage a younger person,
Sure.
good financial practices. It's always good for them to learn the responsibility of having a bank account, even if it's in joint names with their parents.
Okay.
So it promotes fiscal, financial responsibility as well.
Convenience and education.
Thank you, Rex. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, could we have roll call, please?
You?
Yes.
Reardon?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
DeLucre?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, ordinance number 7 of 2017 is an introduction amending the ice cream vending ordinance. We have a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ed, you want to talk about the need for the change in this ordinance?
Yes, Mayor. The primary change is to extend a northern boundary from 7th Street North down to the seawall, or up to the seawall. So this proposed amendment would allow vets to sell ice cream on the beachfront from the seawall to the jetty, and then for the entire length of the coast.
Okay, any discussion by council?
Yeah, absolutely. This change came about at the request of the veterans who are selling ice cream on the beach. We had a boundary set up, I think, somewhere around 7th or 8th Street, but they said there's a lot of people who said they weren't getting the service that they need. They wanted the veterans to be able to come down and deliver the ice cream to them on the beach, especially on the north end. So a representative of the ice cream, I guess salespeople down there, asked if we could make that extension to better service the people on the beach and to allow veterans to have more of an opportunity to make money. So I'm, very happy to see council move forward on this.
Great. Okay, everyone will have access to ice cream. All right, we had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
You,
Yes.
Reardon.
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, ordinance number 8 of 2017 is an introduction amending the salary ordinance. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, there have been requests to change some of the amounts in the maximum column for some of the positions, and they are highlighted in darker ink or bold ink. Ed, do you want to go over, or Roxanne, some of these changes?
I would, Mayor. Thank you. And first, I want to point out, and this is something that I neglected to highlight on the draft ordinance that you have. So if you go to the second page, in the very bottom list of the positions, you'll see Assistant CRS Coordinator, and I did not bold that. That is a proposed salary or stipend, rather. So I'm going to start with that, just bring everybody's attention to it. So that is new. It has a proposed range from $0 to $5,000. It is something I am requesting council consider. CRS is our community rating system. That is our flood insurance, and it reflects the discount that we all receive in our flood insurance premium. Currently, we're a Class 5, as you all remember, and that's a 25% discount that we all benefit from. Every time we improve a class rating, the burden of, I guess, proof to demonstrate or to warrant that class rating improvement gets greater. The documentation, the reporting requirements all grow. So they've grown when we improved from a 6 to a 5. We're in the process of applying to go from a 5 to a 4. So those requirements have increased. I am your CRS coordinator. My proposal is to have a stipend where I can give an employee that is helping me put together the documentation and the reporting that's required by FEMA for the CRS program. So that is a proposed stipend. It will be for an existing employee. Then going back to the first page and starting at the top, we are proposing to increase the city clerk maximum salary from $75,000 to $80,000. One thing I'd like to point out is we are not, at this moment, authorizing raises. We're simply increasing that top maximum salary because the people in these positions are getting very close to that and will be within a year or two. Considering a 2% increase, they will be beyond that maximum. So the first is the city clerk. The second position is the city manager position. Having said that, I am under contract, and that contract will be for another year, and then at that time, hopefully we'll be back to council to consider a new contract. The next position that we are recommending an increase is the judge of the municipal court. The maximum was $30,000. We are proposing $40,000. The next two positions, chief of police and the chief of the fire department. The maximum was $130,000. We were proposing $150,000. And I'd like to take a moment to explain that. Previously, the chiefs received a base salary of $130,000, which was the maximum, and then they received their longevity on top of that. They receive any education stipends on top of that. They receive a clothing allowance and any other certifications that go on top of that. What I am proposing to do, and I have proposed in the two chiefs' contracts that are before council this evening, is to roll all their compensation into one salary. So they will no longer get a longevity as a stipend or an education stipend or a clothing allowance. Their number will be what you see. That number, as we discussed, is $143,000, I think $684. It is the same for both chiefs. They will no longer receive compensation for longevity. They will no longer receive compensation for education or a clothing allowance or any other compensation. That's the number. And that's the reason for the change in the maximum from the 130 to the 150. Moving down, the next position we are proposing to increase is the superintendent of public works. The current maximum is $105,000. I am proposing a $115,000 max. The next stipend, water and sewer license stipend. The current max is $8,000. I am proposing a $15,000 maximum. Again, I'm not suggesting, or I do not plan on increasing the stipend to that max. But over the years, we will exceed the 8,000. I will
Can you tell me what the guy with the water permit does? You know, how come it's a $7,000 bump if we go that high? I know we're not going that high, but how important is this?
So this is your water and sewer licensed operator. So this is the person in charge of our water and sewer.
One person
One
has that
person.
license? Okay.
It's distributing our water, collecting our sewer, complying with all the state regulations for testing and monitoring. It is an extremely serious position. There was a point in time where we did not have a licensed water and sewer operator, and we had to hire from, I think it was New Jersey American Water, correct? And you paid that person to come over here and supervise occasionally more than what I am proposing to increase as a stipend. So to me, this is one that I feel very strongly about. The position warrants, the responsibility of that position warrants more than the current maximum. However, I'm not proposing to increase it to what, I'm not proposing to increase the actual stipend to the $15,000. I would look to do that over several years.
Thank
you. The next proposed increase is to the chief financial officer. The current maximum is $110,000. I am proposing to increase it to $115,000. And that is a change with, again, the last one is the assistant CRS coordinator that I am recommending.
Okay. Any council comments, questions?
Yeah, how do these changes, I guess, affect our budget?
The proposed changes are all, they will not have any impact on this budget. So we're not looking to make increases in salaries that change our budget at all. This is, again, just planning for the future. We have the two chiefs' contracts that really needed this amendment. And then we looked at what positions are extremely close to that maximum and will be looking at possibly breaching that maximum in the next year or so with potential 2% increases. So for this budget, no impact to this budget.
So basically, you're saying this is housekeeping, so we don't have to do this year after year after year.
That is
So,
correct.
You know,
That is
and
correct.
we're hoping, you know, no offense against the Chiefs or anything, we'll never get to that number. And then, you know, when the Chiefs retire, we'll start out at the lower number. We didn't raise any of the lower numbers, like the starting numbers up.
That's correct.
Okay.
So we, like they said, we have a few people that are up against the maximum, and with the 2% increases over the next year or two, we need to,
So we don't have to do it
right.
year after year.
And then now we're going to be more transparent with the chief's salaries instead of the 130 max with the add-ons. Everything's more transparent.
That is
It's a
correct.
good thing, yeah.
And in terms of the police chiefs, that contract existed. We're not increasing his total compensation.
Right.
You know, it's simply we're making it one number instead of three numbers.
So this way the public gets a better look at what the actual salaries are.
Correct.
How often do you anticipate doing, or how soon do you anticipate doing this again in the future?
I don't for another year at least. We have, as we discussed, we have a supervisors union that is organizing and pending how that goes. But I don't expect, we looked at this for the next couple of years to see what we thought we would need to change.
But the next change wouldn't necessarily be the same ones that you made here, there would
No.
be other ones.
So we don't.
For the water and sewer license stipend, any idea what it would cost if we did do it in-house? I don't know if you had an estimate or you know the
So-
cost?
What we paid, and I think that I go back maybe 10 years, we paid New Jersey American Water, one of their licensed operators, to come and be our licensed operator, and we paid greater than the 15. I don't have the exact number, but it was more than the 15.
And he wasn't here every day?
No.
No. So you got him a month or whatever the case may be.
Enough that he felt comfortable signing off on, you know, so initially it may have been a little bit more, but towards the end it was very infrequent.
So it sounds like a very important, you know, we're dealing with everybody's water, and we don't want to be a Flint, Michigan again.
That's
You know,
correct.
stuff like that, so.
And I think you have to keep in mind that you don't always, there's a lot of people that don't have that certification.
Just asking.
You know,
Right.
so you're going to pay a premium for someone to fill that role,
Well, and I guess that,
if you don't do it internally.
yeah, and that brings up kind of another point too. If only one person has the license, is there some type of incentive or encouragement for someone else in Public Works to also have that license?
There are, so we
Okay.
have a few in the water and sewer
All right.
department that are pursuing their licenses. They have earlier licenses that are
Working their way towards it, okay.
Okay, so bottom line is it doesn't impact the 2.1 cent decrease that we're planning for this year.
That is correct.
And we're not going to go up to the maximum
That is correct.
over a period of years.
That is correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
One follow-up question to what Phil just asked, so I'm clear, this year's budget, you said it won't have any impact. Have you built into this year's budget some allowance for something short of increases to the new maximums for some of these positions?
For most positions, including the unions, we've anticipated a 2% increase, so the answer is yes.
Yeah. So I see a couple of the positions obviously are like your own, and the chiefs are contract positions, so whatever the increase is going to be under the contract, you've obviously accounted for that. But like, for example, the CRS coordinator, is there money in the budget anticipating that this year we might adopt that position?
There is not identified as assistant CRS coordinator, but yes, there is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other council comments, discussion?
Do we have to make a motion to make a CRS coordinator or assistant?
I think the installation of this in the salary ordinance,
Okay.
then will, once it's adopted, will give me the opportunity to discuss with that employee.
Right now, the savings on that for the CRS is 25%, and that's something on the flood insurance for everyone who has flood insurance?
That is correct, and it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.6 million citywide.
All right, so and then by expanding this, as we work towards, I guess, going from a 5 to a 4, that would take us from a 25 to a 30% reduction.
That is correct.
So spending this money could help all the citizens save more money.
That is correct.
Okay.
That's because if we go to the, I'm sorry, if we go to the next step in the CRS for the flood adjustments and insurance lowering, that'd take, right now you said the city's saving 1.6 million?
Correct.
So if we get to the next level,
The homeowners.
we'll be over
It'll be over $2 million.
$2 million in savings.
It's a big, it's a heavy lift
Yeah.
to do. It is, I mean, it's documents this much every year that we have to provide to FEMA to demonstrate compliance. And it's work that I need this person to do. Yes.
Just seems like smart money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to spend money to make money, and this is a instance where.
I could spend $2,000 to make another 500 grand.
Yeah.
Okay, can we have roll call?
Hugh,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay. Resolution 2017-43, the Local Redevelopment and Housing Law Designation Resolution. Resolution of the City of Brigantine designating all the real property within the city as an area in need of rehabilitation. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, the question was asked why we are doing this. This is to authorize Rotella Associates and to begin the process to facilitate this. Part of our grant from the Atlantic County Improvement Authority planning grant that we received. And I'll let Ed Stinson talk a little bit about this, but what this will enable us to do is put us in a much better position to look at alternative financing, perhaps even grant financing to deal with some of the more substantial problems that have been identified as a result of Superstorm Sandy, but also redevelopment of certain areas within the city of Brigantine. So Ed, if you want to add anything to that.
That is correct, Mayor. Thank you. It's really, it comes in part from our Economic Development Committee and the Economic Development Plan that is being created by Jim Rotella. It's a planning tool, an economic development tool that will give us certain opportunities, like you said, for funding opportunities. It will help us with the Civic Center property where we can work towards a development plan for that property. It also starts, or at least opens the door for possible consideration for business districts, for tax abatements or any development incentive, business incentives that go along those lines. Does not mean you're going to do that. It's simply, the first step is declaring the area meets the definition for an area in need of rehabilitation.
Great. Any council comments, questions?
Yeah, just one question. Like, when you talk about designating Brigantine as an area in need of redevelopment, how does that affect real estate values? Like, if you have somebody outside who hears that all of Brigantine's designated as this.
No, I don't suspect, and we're told that it will not.
Okay.
I can tell you Ocean City has done this, Ventnor has done this, many other communities have done this. It isn't saying that, we're a blighted area.
Okay.
It isn't any of that. It's really a tool for us to have if we want to go in certain directions. And the obvious one that I think we will be pursuing will be movement on the old Civic Center property, right?
Mm-hmm.
But other opportunities are there. They may present themselves later, and this simply is something we'll have in the ready if we need.
The word you're looking at is rehabilitation, not redevelopment.
Oh,
And
okay.
in the statute, both terms are defined.
Okay.
And there is a difference between rehabilitation and redevelopment. Operationally, the things that you can do with those various designations, operationally, that you can achieve the same goals.
Okay.
But in terms of the standard for rehabilitation versus the standard for redevelopment, it is a different standard.
Okay, thank you.
Fred, does it matter, or does it limit us in any way in terms of our options for funding or projects that we've found or that we would find that there was need for rehabilitation based on one specific criteria, in our case being the age of the water and sewer infrastructure? Would we be limited, for example, to only projects that addressed water or sewer infrastructure? Or does the fact that we meet that one criteria open the door for any kind of projects and any kind of funding that's available?
It's going to depend upon the conditions of the funding, but my instinct is that once you have the designation, you are open to all funding sources that can be flowing into an area in need of rehabilitation. I don't think you're going to be segregated based upon the nature of what the funding is for. If that's an answer, I'm sorry.
It's a tremendous answer.
And it does say in the resolution about some of the things that can be done as a result of this, including tax abatements, as Mr. Stinson said. So it is an economic development tool, not saying that it will be implemented, but it gives us the option if there is a project or an area that council feels we can enhance the position of someone coming in to work in that area or develop that area, but also there may be some ways to enhance properties for homeowners as well. Okay, could we have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Reardon.
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, Resolution 2017-44 is ratification of the police and fire chiefs' contracts. We have a motion and a second, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, I think Mr. Stinson covered pretty much the terms when he discussed the salary ordinance. He was very specific, and Ed, I don't know if anything else changes really for the police chief's contract that he presently has, other than the way the salary is developed in the aggregate now.
That is correct, and the other change is rather than annual increases consistent with what the PBA union or the firefighters union negotiates, the increases will be a 2% annual increase.
And they're 3-year contracts. Now, does that change for Chief Bennett?
The term of his contract does not change.
Okay.
Okay,
Just want to get rid of you as fast as possible.
any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, can we have roll call, please?
View,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
DeLucre.
I'm going to abstain, and I'll take a minute to explain why. And the abstention has absolutely nothing to do with the qualifications or the deservingness of either of our two chiefs doing a fine job. It goes back to the comments that I made when we were looking at the public safety contracts the last time around, and specifically the amount of vacation and sick and personal time that we routinely approve. The chiefs, of course, having now reached the pinnacle of their respective departments, should not be, and I don't expect them, to take a reduction in terms of that aspect of the total compensation package. But the problem, we say from time to time that we're cognizant of it, and Leon does say it every time during the budget, that your personnel costs are 2/3 almost of your budget. And I've asked in the past if somebody could explain to me why we end up negotiating for such, I would say, unrealistic amounts of vacation and sick and personal time in our collective bargaining agreements. That question's really never been answered, but the bottom line of it is that under the current contracts, a person in either department, basically, who is at the top of the pay scale, short of being a chief, would have something between 25 and 30% of the total annual work days available to them through vacation or sick or personal time. We actually, the contract that's being proposed for the fire chief is an improvement over the last chief's contract, where the number was 30%. It was 77, out of a prospective 260-day work year, fully 77 days could have been taken each year under that contract for these categories of vacation and sick. Nothing's going to change unless we start the change, if there's really a willingness to make that kind of a change. I don't know if there is, but when we negotiate the contracts, we're negotiating now with police, we'll be negotiating with fire. You know, as long as we forget the salaries and forget the steps in the contracts, for that one piece of it, the additional time and the time off that people are entitled to, and much of which can be carried forward. There are some caps now, but realistically, you know, the caps don't necessarily help you because they almost compel a person then to use all their time each year if they're not in a position to carry any more additional time. So we end up with, even the best negotiated contracts now for chiefs are basically driven by the contracts that preceded them, in each of the departments, and the benefit levels that we routinely give there. So I've always thought that, you know, lacking some explanation, those numbers are just too high. And for 25 to 30% of a person's work year to be basically time off, if they want it to be, that I've never heard explained in any kind of reasonable way. So I'm not going to vote no, because that wouldn't be fair to either of the chiefs, but, you know, I also can't vote yes, so I abstain.
Sarah?
As I look at these contracts, you know, a lot of times people get upset about union contracts. And there's a lot of people who want instant change. They want things to just magically change and go the way they want. What I look at with this is it puts us in a better position. Our chiefs worked with us to do this. You look at raises are no longer tied to what the bargaining units get. All the money that's negotiated for is now inside. You don't have longevity, education, and clothing allowances outside that sum of money. It provides better transparency and puts the city in a better position for where we go next. I think that the contracts that were negotiated put Brigantine in a good position to continue to move forward. And I'll tell you, both of our chiefs do an outstanding job. I'm proud of what they do. And I think this is fair compensation for the job that they do. So I say yes.
Simpson?
Well, of course, I know the chiefs. I knew Jimmy Bennett when he was in diapers. Tiger Platt come from a long, honorable family. So does Jimmy Bennett, too. So he was, I don't want to say Bill Bennett and Mrs. Bennett was not. They are outstanding human beings. They're not going to cheat the city out of anything, as we were talking about compensation if they were sick or they feel they need to burn days or whatever the case may be. They're very honorable people. And we have to start our negotiations with the two gentlemen we have right now, and then hopefully, you know, when they leave and their new chiefs come on, and we can start a better process, you know, with compensation and stuff like that. And not to say that we didn't have better conversation. As Leon Costello said, the payroll's down this year. So with Roxanne and Ed and Leon, you know, they're working very hard to control the budget. So I'm voting yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Did you vote?
Yeah.
I did, but...
Okay, hold on and wait. We have two exceptional individuals who have been selected to lead our public safety departments. And I think there's unanimous agreement on that by all members of City Council. But I do want to comment, and Vince and Andy said some of the same things that I will probably comment on, but there have been major inroads and setting a pattern for the future with these contracts. And both of these individuals who have spent their careers in public safety understand that. They have given up longevity in this contract. Longevity is now part of their total compensation, so it will not sit outside. But it's no longer a side piece to the contract. They've given up their education benefit, they've given up their clothing allowance. So those things are now part of a total compensation package, and they will be in the contract. And it is much more transparent that way. They also are taking less vacation time in their terminal payout than the law allows for. The law allows for 2 years. They're taking 10 days less than 2 years. And the issue with public employees and sick time, you get into a situation where this debate goes on. The employees who show up every day and haven't burned their sick time, and there's an assumption sometimes that is made that if you give someone 12 sick days a year, they're going to use 12 sick days a year. Well, obviously, I know these individuals haven't, and they won't do that going forward. So that time is something that they have protected for their families, because if they get sick, they do have an insurance policy based on the fact that they have not abused sick time all of those years that they have been employees. So I think this is a good contract. I think it's a fair contract for the city of Brigantine. It's transparent. This is the total compensation that our police and fire chiefs will receive. And I'm happy to vote on this because it is securing the employment, because the contract goes both ways. There are some penalties if they leave early. We actually are able to know that we have the quality individuals that we have serving in these positions will be here for the term of this contract. And quite frankly, I hope they stay longer. I'm voting yes.
Motion carried.
Can I make a quick comment? Being the new guy, I should have done it when I voted, but I just wanted to say thank you for both of them. And also, the contract I looked at, especially the fire chief, was less, basically, after vacation days and all, was less than what the previous chief had. And the contract I looked at, I didn't see 30% of vacation time and time off of the whole year. So the numbers I was looking at were like 11% or 15% that fits into any other long-term employee. So thank you again.
Okay.
I'd just like to say also that I don't think anybody should misconstrue when you start taking all your vacation time, all your weekends, all your holidays, your potential sick time, and you add that all up. That is not a realistic portrayal of what our two chiefs are doing. They are doing an excellent job. And I would say also that their contracts, based on their positions and their time on the job, their vacation days, I was in I had a full career in the state police, and it is not out of line. It is perfectly in line, I would say. And between, with their salaries and their vacation days, and along with the sick time too, personal days, it's all in line. There's been efforts made statewide as far as controlling certain things on buyouts when someone reaches the end of their career. And I think everything is just absolutely on the up and up.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, moving on, we have the work change order for the remedial investigation at the Brigantine Golf Links. It's Resolution 2017-45. Can I have a motion, a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, Ed, do you want to talk about the remediation there?
I will, thank you, Mayor. We awarded the contract to Whitman for the licensed site remediation professional, and also to work on the monitoring wells at the golf course, at the maintenance yard, trying to work that towards a closure. This is a change order of $2,780, $2,780. And what it does is give us an additional sampling of the monitoring well. What is required for project closeout is 2 consecutive clean samples. We had one sample that did not meet the standards. Then we followed up with a second sample that met the standards. A third sample that meets the standards, then gets us towards a closure. This $2,700 change order will get that additional sample and get us working towards that closure. So we actually did do that additional sampling. I authorized that because we wanted to get, we wanted to test that right after we had the one clean sample. So I authorized that, and it came back clean. So it's great news. This change order pays for that additional sampling, and it also pays for the application for a remedial action outcome, which is what was formerly the no further action. So it's good news.
Great. Okay, any further questions?
I just want to say, owning gas stations and owning the ground and everything like that, if you get no further action, $2,700, make sure you just hand deliver it to them. Let's get it done, because state of New Jersey does not give those things out like lollipops.
Thank you. Okay, could we have roll call, please?
View. Yes. Reardon.
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Simpson.
When you get the no further action letter, I would like to see that, because I never saw one before. I always thought I had a better chance of my hair coming back, but that's a yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Resolution 2017-46 is a real estate tax refund. Can we have a motion and second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, these are overpayments. Could we have roll call, please?
View.
Yes.
Reardon.
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Resolution 2017-48, or excuse me, 47 is the cancellation of real estate taxes for 100% permanently disabled veteran. Motion and second, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Could we have roll call, please?
View.
Yes.
Reardon.
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Resolution 2017-48, the Brigantine PBA roadway solicitations permit. Could I have a motion and second, please?
Make that motion.
Second.
So we're not going to tell you where it is, because then you'll take a different route. But it's actually, it's on Brigantine Boulevard and Harbor Beach Boulevard on Sunday, March 25th.
So you can't get off the
That's
island.
it, you can't miss that one. They're getting smart.
Yeah.
All right, we've had a motion second?
Make a
Roll
motion.
call?
View.
Yes.
Reardon.
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, we move to our consent agenda. We have the Brigantine Elks raffle license number 802, the Gloucester Township Rotary Foundation raffle license 803, the Summers Point Boy Scout Troop number 55 camping on beach request, and the Chamber of Commerce Easter egg hunt request. Can I have a motion second, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Could we have roll call?
View.
Yes.
Reardon.
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And I should do a commercial for the Easter egg hunt. It's Saturday, April 8th, rain date Sunday, April 9th at the 42nd Street Field. And I'm sure there'll be more information coming out for that from the chamber. Okay, at this time, I'll turn it over for our city manager for any manager or committee discussions.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a recommendation to council concerning the golf course and the water and sewer bills. We currently charge the golf course, essentially charge ourselves for water and sewer for the golf course. I understand that when it was a for-profit entity, either American Golf or even when Meadowbrook was managing it, maybe that certainly made sense for American Golf. With Meadowbrook, it probably makes sense. Now that we have Atlantic County Improvement Authority as our operator, and with us and our water department working with them, I don't feel that it makes sense to charge the golf course for water and sewer. I feel that it is inconsistent with what we do for the rest of the island, where we do not charge any municipal building or municipal grounds for water and sewer. We do not charge the school for water and sewer. We do not charge the county for the library for water and sewer. I think in terms of being consistent, I would recommend that we do not charge ourselves for water and sewer at the golf course. So that's my recommendation, and ask council for a yes or no.
Ed, the rate structure too, does it make any sense, the way it's actually done?
So our rate structure is really not set up for a user like a golf course. So our structure is set up for residential use. So it doesn't really fit for the golf course.
And we also, with the water and sewer utility, as was just presented, we are running a surplus.
We have a strong fund balance in the water and sewer, and I think it's appropriate to consider this.
Ed, if I could ask you a couple questions about the golf course, because you and I you provide me with the information that I requested from time to time about the revenues and the costs of the golf course. The last information that we had was that the end through 2016, we were showing round figures, $794,000 in total receipts, and including an assessment for water and sewer, $785 in costs. The cost number, though, didn't have any entry for either pension contribution or unemployment, even though we had budgeted for both of those items at the start of the year. Did we not incur any pension or unemployment cost related to the golf course?
Sorry. No, the pension costs are, if you realize we're in a delay pattern when we make a pension payment. Our pension payment this year relates to salaries and wages from 2015. We anticipate that we will have a pension payment for those employees allocated to us from ACIA this current budget, because it will be based upon their 2016 wages.
So what you're, like, we don't pay their pension, that's part of their budget that's built in. So what you were just reading, even though they had anticipated originally in their first budget that they would have a pension payment, they didn't actually make a pension payment. So that's why it shows as
Okay,
nothing on there.
but we're really just talking about the timing of the payment. If we're trying to get a picture of the actual operating costs for that 12-month period, there will be some number for pension.
Well, we're all on a cash basis. We're really basically on a cash basis. I mean, the pension payments you're making for everybody else is for the prior year's pension liability. So it's really no different.
Well, but then wouldn't we have had an entry for pension and unemployment based on our 2015 experience?
They
in
were not,
2016?
they weren't employees back then, as far as I know,
That's
with
right.
ACIA.
Right.
We make those payments in 2018.
We expect we'll have a pension payment in 2017.
We'll reimburse ACIA for their pension payments.
And- All right, just, so for the sake of discussion, let's assume that the 2017 number is about what was projected for 2016, between those two items, which was about, looks like 21.5 for the, looks like 21.5 for both, we were anticipating. If we had experienced that number this year, but we didn't because last year we were under Meadowbrook and we didn't have to pay that, then we would have run in the red, right? Because we were at a spread of about $9,000 without any entry for those two items.
I think that the budget amount was, what, 3,500 for, was it 3,500? I don't remember, for pension?
The spreadsheet I'm looking at here looks like 21.5,
Okay.
and then,
21,500, 21,000, or?
yeah, 21,000.
No.
Yeah, they only have a couple employees and not very
Yeah, there's
high
only
paid.
a couple.
Highest one's, I think, 60,000. Except for Tom Dale's.
But again, the point is that we're all on a cash basis, and we pay what is billed to us in the current year, which still relates to the prior period. So even if, I mean, as far as I know, those employees were not employees the previous year, there would have been no liability. Now, this year, if there should be a liability when the pension bills come out.
All right. So, but back to the water and sewer then. The idea, and I think a differentiation, Ed, from what you were talking about with other properties, municipally owned properties, that we don't bill for water and sewer, is that the golf course was specifically organized as a utility, and the idea being that it would be self-sustaining. But at the same time, in any given year, we saw it happen in 2013, I'm sorry. If it's not self-sustaining, then the city is going to be on the hook, just like we pick up the balance of the debt service, whatever that may be. And if it ran in the red, we'd pick that up. So in practice, if we allocate to the golf course some number, whatever that may be, for water and sewer service, it doesn't change our bottom line. If the golf course is not generating enough money to pay, then it's going to come out of us. So the utility is not self-sustaining in that case. The only thing that's different, though, is that the utility then kind of artificially looks better than it is, because we're taking an item of expense which is definitely attributable to that operation, and we're taking it off the books, taking it offline and paying it from a different pocket. The bottom line to the city, I agree, is no different. Still the same amount of money is being paid, but what are we gaining? I mean, the utility looks better on paper, but it looks better because we've taken away a substantial cost item and, decided we're going to bear it ourselves. I'm not sure I get that. And again, the other properties that we provide water and or sewer service to, including this building and our ball fields and such, they're not organized as utilities. They're just traditional municipally owned properties that, of course, there's nobody to bill for because it would just be us. So,
Do we charge
I've
Public
not-
Works for water? Aren't they operating a utility?
Okay, and how much water and sewer does Public Works use down at the Public Works building? I don't think it's the same thing. And again, if it was necessary to show in Public Works Department, or in the Water and Sewer Department, I should say, allocate, which we try to do. We've been trying to do that for the last couple of years, get the proper allocation of expenses to that utility for its operations and remove things that shouldn't be there. But, I mean, the golf course is pretty obviously a standalone, and it's not difficult to isolate those things which are expenses attributable to that operation, just as it's easy enough to figure out what the revenues are there. There's only about 2 or 3 revenue streams that come through there. So if we take the water and sewer, or take any of these items, if we picked up any of these cost items and said, we're just going to pay that, all you're doing really is skewing a picture of the profitability or the operational efficiency, maybe, of the golf course utility. How does that benefit us?
So, again, from a consistency point, and I feel it's better to keep that revenue in the golf course utility for operation of the golf course utility. So that's my recommendation.
So
Can I?
the gallon, you know, when you look at, and we could have this philosophical argument for quite a while, because the water rates also, not only are you paying for the water that you're using, but you're paying for the system that the city is maintaining. You know, the pipes and the towers and everything else are rolled into the water utility rate at some point. The same owner owns the system that owns the golf course. I think that's what you're saying, is that, you know, the water rates are based on everything in that, to operate that utility, including the towers, the pipes, all of that goes into the creation of a water service. Same owner, the city owns the golf course, the city owns that utility. Does it make sense to charge one entity? And to use the analogy too of the fields, I mean, you could probably set up a situation where the fields could become a utility. So all those organizations that use the field would have to take care of that facility.
And Mayor, the golf course, you know, primarily it's a golf course. Right? But what are the other ways that golf course benefits the residents of the city of Brigantine? It benefits the city of Brigantine, right? It is our drainage system for the entire golf course area. It is a factor in the real estate values of all the homes that are adjacent to it. The irrigation and the maintenance of that golf course obviously benefits the operations of the golf course, but it also benefits the municipality in those ways. We own it. It makes no sense to me or to us to charge ourselves for the irrigation and the sewer for our own property, and that's how I look at it.
All I would ask you, Ed, is to, and maybe you've done this, look around the South Jersey area and find out the county municipal-owned properties that they own golf courses and stuff like that, like Green Tree, McCullough's and stuff like that, and see if they're charging themselves for their own water. That's all I would ask you to do. And give me a percentage of people who are charging theirself for water and the people are not.
I will get that information. I
Okay,
did
thanks.
talk with the ACIA. They told me that they do not charge themselves. There's no municipal golf course that charges themselves for the water. But I will look at it myself.
Yeah, look a little further
I'll
and,
get
you
the
know,
information.
then that would make sense, you know, if everybody else doesn't do it, why we? Okay.
How would this affect the water rates? Like, does it have an effect?
It will have no impact on the water rates.
You said it had no impact on the water rate, so
Zero.
homeowners wouldn't be picking up any
That
additional
was the
cost.
question.
We just wouldn't take money out of one pocket and put it
Yeah,
in another.
that's it.
That's all
One
you're
pocket.
doing.
One
That
pocket
I
to
see,
the other.
but if we have other places that are, you know, 95% out of 100 doing it, you know,
If council's okay, I mean, my plan is to
give us some more information.
to not do that. We will not charge the golf course water and sewer. I will get that information
Then we have
together.
to do a
If it's
resolution.
different, then I'll bring it back to you.
Okay.
But my plan is, as policy, we do not charge ourselves water and sewer for any other property, so we will not charge ourselves water and sewer.
Okay.
Is that
Right, well,
good with you?
I'll ask Mr. Cerny, do we need a resolution for that?
I don't think you do, no. I mean, you
want to do a voice vote now?
Yeah.
That's what I mean, just do
You can do a voice vote, so you have a sense of council, but I don't know that you need a formal resolution for that, no.
Well, I want Ed to change a policy without having something behind it that says to do it. So the resolution would be,
No resolution.
or the voice vote would be to not charge, not charge the
getting
golf
hungry.
course
Hurry up.
for water and sewer service going forward. We need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
I would just say if you come back with anything besides, 60% or 70% of any other local municipalities or county or townships that are charging themselves for water, then we should have another vote at that time. But I don't believe that, it doesn't make business sense, to be honest with you. So I'm ready to vote.
Okay.
It'll probably even help in bookkeeping, make it easier.
Well, obviously, you all know how the mechanism works. If there's a shortfall in the golf utility, then the city picks up the end. So hopefully, this will lighten the burden on the taxpayers on that end, at least until maybe the debt is paid off, the long-term debt is paid off. But
Okay.
All right, had a motion second, had discussion. Could we have roll call?
View,
Yes.
Reardon,
I just want to say, Ed, I want to thank you for being transparent and bringing it out to us. It sounds like you didn't really need to. We don't need a resolution or an ordinance, so it's good that way. And my concern with what Andy said, if other golf courses are charging themselves for water, then we should. But obviously, you said that you talked to the ACIA and they don't. So I don't see a problem with it. So I vote yes.
DeLucre, Heaney, I'm sorry.
Being a shore community, I think we're definitely unique in that, particularly when Ed referred to the sewer, the drainage from that golf course. That's a huge point for an island community like ourselves. In addition to that, you also, the water and just keeping the greens and the fairways and everything in good shape. Really, I mean, if you get it removes fire hazards and things of that nature and just beautifies the whole area. So, I vote yes.
DeLucre,
All of the rationalizations, the explanations, they're nice. I acknowledge up front that the way we've structured it, if the golf course can't pay for itself, we pick up the difference. The issue is really one of genuine transparency, which is that the golf course has always been presented as, when it was first taken over by the city, and ever since, uniformly presented as, and structured as a utility specifically because it was claimed that it would be self-sufficient, self-sustaining, which sadly it's not. The numbers from 2015 to 2016 show that total revenues dropped from about 981 to 794. That's pretty steep. Thank God that the ACIA was able to do the job they were and reduce our costs. But we all know that you reach a point when you're not going to be able to reduce costs anymore. I look at this Band-Aid measure of changing the policy as being nothing more than a Band-Aid. And next year, when, I hope, like everybody up here hopes, that golf course has a banner year, but I'm also not going to put my head in the sand and say that these numbers don't mean anything. My God, you dropped almost 200,000 in revenues in 1 year. So next year, when we're looking at it again, then we'll be making other adjustments, and we'll say, well, let's take out the golf cart leases, maybe. We'll take that out, and the city will pay that directly to save money. It's all for appearance's sake. We're not addressing the fundamental issue, which is golf course as a golf course run by us is very close to being a money-losing proposition. And that's without even talking about debt service. This is just basic profit and loss year to year. So I don't see the point other than for appearance's sake of changing the policy, so I vote no.
Sarah,
I think we have a responsibility as a governing body to make sure that we manage the golf course as best as we can. Can't change the fact that the city owns the golf course. It's ours. We have to make another payment in 2018, then the debt service is done. We've made a lot of responsible decisions to try to take the burden off the taxpayer. One of those is being ACIA. You look at the revenues. ACIA did exactly what they needed to do with those revenues. As they saw the revenue projections, they made adjustments in the budgets to save the taxpayers' money. You look at the water utility. If making this change doesn't have an effect on the water utility and doesn't affect people's rates, but it gives the golf course a better chance at success, then we as a governing body have that responsibility to put the golf course in the best position possible. The more we put it in a better position, the better it can do for our community. So I vote yes.
Simpson?
Yeah, being a businessman, it doesn't make sense charging yourself for something that's a necessity. I think the golf course is holding its own in this economy, especially what's going on in Lang City. It is, the county, when they came in, they made the golf course better. They're controlling expenses, and this doesn't give them an open checkbook just to keep watering day and night down there, because that's not really the professional way of doing a golf course anyway. It's not very much water that they want to put on there. They want to put it on the greens and the tee boxes, so on a link system. So I vote yes.
Mayor Gunther?
Something that consistently gets lost in the conversation is that the golf course was self-liquidating for the majority of the time that we owned it. The majority of the time that we owned it. And there is no other municipal asset that we have purchased that has performed that way that I can think of, where we've actually bought open space, 180 acres, a golf course, a clubhouse, and they've paid their own way the majority of the time. Now, I know I was there when it was purchased and when it was set up. And the goal was always to have the golf course as a self-liquidating utility. I don't think anyone could have foreseen some of the economic situations that occurred, over the past 17 years. And when we consider that we've done as well as we have for the majority of the time that we've owned that golf course, I think we made the right investment, and I think we have to make adjustments going forward, given the changes in the economy, changes in the golf industry. But the one thing that's there is still 180 acres of open space. That was the right decision then. We need to make the right decisions now. And I'm voting yes. I believe the golf course will continue to do well. It will, under the leadership of the Improvement Authority, I think continue to be enhanced both in the operation and as a something that sits right in the major population center of our city. I think people who live on the golf course, myself included, would say that the Improvement Authority, they've been very good neighbors in terms of the way they've operated that course. So emphatically, I'm voting yes, and I think we're going to need to, in the future, look at other ways that we can continue to improve the course and to make it more profitable, and that's the work the Golf Course Committee has already done and will continue to do. I think they've made some great suggestions so far, and I think there are some other areas where we can improve revenue over the next couple of years as well.
Motion carried.
Phil, were you saying you were there in 1928 when it opened?
No. When the city purchased, I was there. I'll be reminded of that in a moment. Okay, any other council or committee?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Nick Crossan to the Recreation Commission as a non-voting member.
I'll second that.
And one other item, as Leon said, we will need, I will need to have a Board of School Estimates. By law, I have to serve on it as the mayor, and I would like to suggest that Councilman Simpson, who served last year, Deputy Mayor Simpson, and Councilman Reardon join me on the Board of School Estimates this year. If we could have a motion and a second for that.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Do we need a roll call, though, for Nick Crossan's?
Oh, I thought you already did that, I'm sorry.
Did motion
Okay.
second. I don't know if
All
we
right,
did roll
I apologize for that.
call. Yeah, he's
Yeah, put him
he's
on.
just
he's on
rolling
the
over
school
me
board.
again.
All right, so let's do the roll call on the Recreation Commission first, and then we'll go back to the Board of School Estimates.
View,
Yes.
Reardon.
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, and we had a motion and a second, I believe, on the Board of School Estimates.
We did.
Okay, could we,
Who seconded it? I didn't-
Vince.
Vince, okay.
could we have roll call on that, please?
View,
Yes.
Reardon.
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
DeLucre.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Mayor Gunther.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, at this time, I'll open the meeting for public comment. Anyone who would like to address council, please state your name and address for the record, and please use the microphone. Yes, Mrs. Phillips.
Ann H. Phillips, 308 27th Street. I came up here with the intention of having one item, but I'm going to add one to that. And it concerns what you just did, what you just approved with the policy concerning water usage at the golf course. That approval is a complete contradiction of the premise upon which this course was sold to the Brigantine taxpayers at the time of purchase, which was it was to be self-sustaining. And the cost of it was not to be borne by the taxpayers. Well, for the past several years, part of it has been borne by the taxpayers, and now evidently another item will be added to that cost. People who don't play golf, who just live here as taxpayers, are going to assume a greater cost for the golf course. And I think that's rather dishonest on the part of this council. If you said something that we're having financial problems and we have to place a burden on you rather than on the people who use it, then you're not doing that. You're simply doing this now, and the public will not be aware of it. And I think that's goes back on what you promised to the public several years ago at the time of purchase. So the other item, my original item, concerns the seawall. A local paper recently had the headline, "Seawall has taken a beating," and indeed it has. The sand is gone, as will be any replenishment sand, leaving the pilings and the substructure of the seawall at least one half exposed to wave action, and some of the rocks have been dislodged. The article mentions there's an upcoming county meeting, evidently to repair what was done at by the recent storm. But I think a good item at this meeting would be a discussion of strengthening the rock barrier, raising its height, and filling in the gaps. The cost has to be compared with the cost of repairing the seawall as damage to it continues and increases. And of course, the continuing cost of replenishing the sand. I think you ought to discuss what is more cost-effective, the constant replenishment or doing something at least with the rocks, because obviously they protect not only the seawall but the road behind it and the property as well. And taking a step now might be a way to prevent greater damage to that whole area in the future. This has been brought up before, came up at the beach committee, and nothing came of it. It's been mentioned to the county executive, and basically he said, you know, go back to your local government. So even though it is a county road and seawall, and the county bears the expense, we're all going to pay for that if the expense gets greater and the damage gets greater. So I just think it's something that should be considered and discussed with the Army Corps.
Well, I don't know if you were here, Mrs. Phillips, at the last meeting. I believe we talked about the beach replenishment project that is scheduled for that area in the fall. Mr. Stinson and I have had a lot of discussions about the seawall. I know he's working with John Doring about ways to secure it, as well as, not the seawall itself, but the steps to ensure that people have some access to the beach. Your suggestion of just making that a rock area and not having a beach in the front of it, and maybe you're talking about a jetty, building of a jetty.
No, well, that's something, no, I'm not talking about a jetty, because you can see what happens to the replenishment. It lasts for a while, and then it's gone. And of
But
course,
we
there is a
also
cost
have-
to that.
Replenishment does exactly what it's designed to do. It protects that area for the life of that replenishment. The other thing that it does is it gives that area a beach. So we have to be also aware that people purchase property in that area, they had a beach. There is a value to having a beach that you can access in that area. And we are part of a managed beach as well, so the replenishments will continue as long, we are in that program, as you know, with the Army Corps of Engineers. But I'd like Mr. Stinson to address with the seawall itself at this point.
I like to just interject something, though. But at the moment, you do have the replenishment, and you have the rocks. But the rocks have worn down, they've been pushed aside. You have at least a half of that substructure for the seawall and so on exposed now to wave action. And it's not saying that you perhaps might not want to continue the sand replenishment, but you do need to do something to protect that seawall. And you've had the stairs and so on, but that's minor compared to what can be done in terms of weakening that structure. So I just think it's something that you should discuss.
No, we are well aware of it, and we've talked about it extensively. Mr. Stinson, I don't know if you want to bring that up?
Sure, Mayor. There are
Thank you, Mrs.
conversations.
Phillips.
There are conversations with the DEP regarding stone and maybe adding to that stone. It is not part of the Army Corps project. The Army Corps project is strictly the replenishment aspect. As you remember, the seawall was constructed together with the state and the county and the city of Brigantine. So the Army Corps will not participate in stone in the large jetty rock. We have asked the state. They, at this point, have not agreed to do it. Their position is they're partners in the Army Corps beach replenishment, and as long as we stay consistent with that beach replenishment, then there will be no need for the stone. So we are asking, that's a number of things that we are asking the DEP to do in addition to their participation with us in the beach fill. And just as a reminder, we did meet with the Army Corps. They have a replenishment project. It is not the full cycle renourishment, right? We're with them in a 50-year program. I think we're on a 6-year cycle for the full replenishment. We had a replenishment done right after Sandy in 2013, so 2019 is the schedule for the full replenishment. However, we had a storm, Winter Storm Jonas, a year ago, and we documented loss from that storm, and therefore Army Corps has received FCEE funding, which is just related to that Winter Storm Jonas. So the replenishment that we will see in the fall is a partial replenishment to replace the amount that was lost in Jonas, and it will be focused obviously at the hot spot at the seawall.
Great. Okay, any other public?
Well, I'd just like to say one thing also, Mrs. Phillips, about your concern in the second ward, being the councilman of the second ward. Right after the storm happened and we lost all that sand, I was in contact with Ed, and he just what he said there, he told me that. And also, just as recent as last Thursday, Ed and I were speaking to a member of the Army Corps engineer asking about the situation. So we are on top of it. I would also like to say I resent your comment about us being dishonest up here, okay? I don't think there's anybody up here that's being dishonest when it comes to responsible government, so I really believe you're basing your rather nebulous hypothesis on a totally erroneous assumption. Thanks.
Okay, any other public comment? Okay, I'm going to close the public portion. Are there any additional council comments?
I have an announcement to make. On Thursday, March 30th, there will be a National Family Dinner Night held at the Elks Lodge. It is free to all Brigantine families. Dinner will be served, and then it will be followed by table games and table discussions. This will be provided by the Brigantine Clean Communities, the Municipal Alliance, Public Works, the Sons of Italy, and the Brigantine Community Presbyterian Church. Families need to pre-register. There are forms going to be in the local papers, and there will also be a flyer coming home in your children's backpacks. So please be looking for these, and please make sure you put Thursday, March 30th on your calendars. It's going to be a fun night. They did it in 2010, and they had around 200 people in attendance, so hopefully we'll get at least that this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. No, we're in council comments.
okay.
Yes. Do you have any announcements or?
Being on the Recreation Commission, I just, pretty soon, the boys and girls this summer are gonna be out there in the fields, but I just wanna give a shout out to our hockey league, and I'm active myself there, donating time still, amongst us, Mike even helped us one day, and we've had a lot of people down there, 2 days, that's right. There were some terrific games down there. There was like a whole bunch of overtime games, and these kids, the little Penguin kids, all the way up through the cadets, the kids who were in high school, they really played their hearts out. There was one game was a triple overtime game, numerous overtime games, and it was just really entertaining. It's nice to see our youth having a great time down there and having a lot of support from the adults and the rest of our community.
Good.
And if you want to come down, there's also going to be a hockey tournament starting next Monday, so anybody wants to just come down, see some good hockey, make a trip down there.
And you have been lucky with the weather this year.
Yes, we have. Hopefully that continues.
No snow, right, Jessica?
I'd like to just say the Cultural Arts Commission had a great get-together last Sunday. Paint party, Karen painted, sold out, good turnout, Cultural Arts Commission. Also, I'm just happy, once again, that the taxes are going down again this year, and that ice cream, all the residents and beachgoers in the Second Ward will be getting full-service ice cream. Yeah, thanks.
Going to get charged Upper East Side prices.
Upper East Side.
That's quite impressive for the first 100 days you got ice cream.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, need a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Once again, I want to thank everyone who participated this evening, and for those of you viewing at home, thank you for tuning into your council at work. Have a good night.